it's hard to stay away, especially from this Western Conference Finals, which has had three really tightly contested showdowns, and we're seeing the continued blossoming or establishment of two guys we already knew could do it at the highest level, but they're starting to enter vaunted territory. Luka and Kyrie having, I mean, we always blow everything out of proportion every year in the playoffs, but the media en masse is now proclaiming them the best offensive backcourt in history. Now, Steph Curry and Klay Thompson still exist, as well as a couple of other combos you can mention and throw in there. I'm just talking last 10 years because people love recency bias. But nonetheless, it has been an absolute clinic from the two of them, kind of taking turns with big moments. Kyrie, obviously, game one with his stretch of play, and then the end of game or quarter three in game two, and then that leading to a Luka game winner with about 3 seconds on the shot clock. And then last night, a couple of big buckets between the two, and then the third star of this team, with Derek Lively going down, was Daniel Gafford, who again continues to haunt some of these Western Conference teams as a guy they could have traded for. And Gafford with the game sealing block on Conley plus the lob finish and one over Defensive Player of the Year Rudy Gobert. It was a really, really fun game to be at if you were a Dallas Mavericks fan. Phenomenal atmosphere there, and a 3-0 series lead for the Mavericks, something that has yet to be overcome in the NBA.
I do feel like it's a record we will see broken in our lifetime. I don't think this is the year on either side. I love how like we inhabit completely different like NBA media consumption diets, yet we somehow both hear that ridiculous best backcourt duo of all time take. I think the two things are like one, that the offense literally is just give Luka or Kyrie the ball and they will make something happen. Whereas like Curry and Thompson, like were two guards excelling in a system that like sometimes was designed to get them looks based on how the system played out. So there's just something more put the entire offense on their backs and carry it together about the vibe Luka and Kyrie have had going. And secondly, that is like especially highlighted in contrast with what the Timberwolves offense has been in the clutch these three games. I saw somewhere that with 5 minutes or less remaining in each of the three games, the Timberwolves have led, and their offense has just gone stone cold silent, where Luka and Kyrie have inevitably managed to get 3 or 4 buckets in that last like 2 to 3 minute stretch. And that's been the difference. And like throughout the game, someone on the Timberwolves, like Naz Reid, Anthony Edwards, a collective effort, like Rudy Gobert being extra efficient on a given night, like has looked a little more complete, a little more steady. But again, just like that Mavs offensive system designed around these two players is really flowing. And I think no one saw this coming 6 months ago, a year ago, when the Mavericks decided to extend Kyrie. And so how unlikely it seemed this would be the team going to the NBA Finals on this very, very stacked Western Conference is so shocking and surprising that maybe it magnifies and makes it a little more exaggerated what they're doing.
It's really tough to be right. Hey,
Yeah,
I mean,
I did not see that extension, and this team, I thought second round maybe, with the Washington Gafford trade was like the ceiling of that team.
yeah, I mean, I for sure, no one saw this coming, but the thing that I had mentioned last week when we were talking ahead of the start of this series was Luka's the best player left in the playoffs, and Kyrie, I mean, undefeated in closeout games, is in the conversation with all of the guys that are left as the best closer. And so you have those two guys together with an extremely upgraded defensive effort that they simply just did not have 2 years ago when they were in the Western Conference Finals.
They
Um,
had great defense that year, but the pieces are designed to
but
fit a
not
little
as much
better.
size. They didn't have the rim protection, right? Dwight
Mm,
Powell was their main center, right?
yeah,
And he just could not handle Kevon Looney of all
yeah,
people. And so this year having that dual threat,
yeah,
being able to kind of rotate through Gafford and Lively, whoever's feeling it, is such a luxury for them to have. And so it makes the injury to Lively even more
yeah,
curious and intriguing as to how the rest of this series is going to play out. We saw some minutes for Dwight Powell, which, I mean, he was able to tread water, but Gafford might have to dip into the high 30s in this next game, and I just wonder if he may run out of gas if Lively's not able to come back. But yeah, just having that rim protection has enhanced the abilities of a PJ Washington and a Derek Jones Jr. to be ball stoppers, and kind of embolden them to make Anthony Edwards' life difficult. And him and Carl Anthony Towns, man, shooting 30% right now in the series
yeah.
is simply not good enough. It's surprising actually that the games have been as close as they have. McDaniels and Conley have and Kyle Anderson have actually been shooting the ball quite well. And
Mhm.
so that's what could worry you as a Timberwolves fan if Cat and Ant play one more stinker and you just don't get that role player
Yeah,
help that you've had the 3 games before, then you could see the end of a really fun Timberwolves season. And I think fans of that team, if you told them Western Conference Finals, they would have signed up for it in a
yeah,
second.
for
But
sure.
it definitely stings more than you think when you get this far and you have the potential to get swept, right?
I'm
If
sure.
if if it was 5, 6, 7 game series and you lose out, you feel a lot better about next year. But a sweep it's a tough pill to swallow. And the big thing for Ant, right? Like guys don't win championships until they're 27 or older in
Yeah,
this league, and he's 22, and it just looks like he's out of gas. And
yeah. That's
yeah,
been going around. The other I mentioned earlier, like the small echo chamber for takes. I wonder if you heard the one like that went kind of to the tune of just like the Timberwolves team was constructed specifically to beat the Nuggets. Like they look like so good against that. And then like in this completely different matchup, like it just the roster construction like doesn't hold up.
I think it's simply come down to execution, right? Like
Yeah.
you have the two main guys you'd want with the ball in your hands out of anyone left in these playoffs. Like maybe you make the argument for Tatum to be in that conversation, but
Mm,
Kyrie and Luka, right? Like that's 1A,
yeah.
1B versus a 22-year-old in the Western Conference Finals, regardless of
First
MJ
time. Like,
comparisons, whatever it is, right?
yeah.
It's
That's
Cat with a track record of underperformance in big moments,
well, he was
and
so good like most of the Nuggets series is
he certainly was. But once Ant started tightening up, he kind of followed in suit, right? He's usually a guy who has success when he's option B and is able to kind of talk the talk and walk the walk when they're playing at a high level. Um, but when the Nuggets did win, he had a really poor shooting performance. And then of course the finally you get to Rudy Gobert, right? Who is a non-factor offensively. Has not been on the receiving end of many lob passes, which I think is quite the contrast compared to the Mavericks throwing one almost every play or having the option to, right, with those high flyers. And so something that Edwards for sure is probably going to look to add to his game next season. Um, and then defensively, like however great Rudy Gobert is, this is a perimeter
well,
oriented team, and we've seen it time and time again.
this
Again,
Mavericks
like
team seems on a mission to humiliate Rudy Gobert. Like
yeah,
I thought Nikola Jokic was trying to like make a statement a couple
oh,
times, but like this Mavericks team has been like
Well,
purposefully
and Bill
vicious at
Simmons had a great
times.
point today. Like France knocked out Slovenia in the World Cup last summer. Or I think it was the last Olympics, potentially one of the more
Anyway,
recent
Luka's got
international
beef.
competitions. Yeah, Luka. These European guys, they do not like each other. They play each other more frequently, even
Mhm.
outside the NBA, and there's some general and or specific animosity that exists there. So it's yeah, I mean, at the end of game two, Gobert gets the reporter tell him Luka's all up in his grill, cussing him out, and he's like, I hear that from him every possession. It's
And
yeah,
then did you see like him being interviewed by the inside the NBA guys and he's like just shy and like, oh, I don't
yeah.
remember what I said. It was just like
It's the sign of a great competitor.
yeah, the
Yeah,
contrast on and off the court is incredible.
yeah.
Though the Overwatch reports too are
That's
also pretty
crazy.
incredible.
That's I mean, when you're as talented as he is, um, like I imagine Jokic would be epic at video games too if he played them, right? They
For
just
sure.
have such a high level of coordination and dexterity,
Yeah. And
and
space and
awareness.
time,
Yeah,
imagination.
yeah, yeah. It's just yeah, crazy stuff, crazy stuff. I mean, do you have any other thoughts on the series before we just can kind of briefly talk East?
I briefly wanted to mention Derek Lively just in how much he's contributed to this Mavericks way and questions moving forward for a game four, a game five, a game six, and more importantly, a finals appearance. The like positioning IQ off the ball offensively and defensively has been really, really impressive. And we talked about the Luka pick ISO play on Gobert to win game two, but the way Lively switched and then like instantly rim ran in a way that forced McDaniels to commit to him and give Luka the space is just like one example of what's been really consistent and great off the ball offensive awareness and positioning.
It's a key actually and a testament to the new age of the NBA being able to find young players that fit roles, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
now we're looking at 3 years here where Lively, great rookie pickup. Last year was Christian Braun for the Nuggets. The year before was Jordan Poole for the Warriors. Not a rookie, but like still on his entry level deal and was essential for them winning the
Right.
title and now has become like just yeah, not we don't need to
Yeah.
talk about Jordan Poole, but